Hello, my name is Lorelai Thompson, and I'm going to be talking about the Khmer Rouge for my informative speech. Okay. What if I told you that the deadliest weapon in history wasn't a bomb, it was silence? The kind that makes people look away, stop asking why, and follow blindly. That silence killed nearly 2 million people in Cambodia in the span of only 4 years. Not because of disease or war, but simply because our own government decided that they didn't deserve to live. The Khmer Rouge came into power with the promise of equality, simplicity, and a better life. Instead, the whole country decided that books, teachers, and families were the enemy. I'm here to show you how one of the darkest chapters in human history started the same way every downfall does, with people who stopped asking questions. This isn't just history, it's a warning. When the Khmer Rouge took over Cambodia in 1975, they shut down schools and hospitals, rejected religion, and banned freedom of expression. According to the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, they declared that everyone is equal now. But what they meant was everyone will obey. Doctors, teachers, and lawyers were executed on the streets because knowledge was a threat. In fact, as a historian, Ben Keenan explains in his book, Pol Pot regime, even wearing glasses could get you killed. It was seen as a sign that you thought too much. The regime forcibly evacuated millions from cities into the countryside and labor camps. Families were ripped apart, and anyone who spoke out simply disappeared. And when the war was over, journalist Elizabeth Becker describes how starvation, torture, and mass execution became tools of control. People were beaten, starved, and worked until they died. Even even children weren't spared in the book. Voices from S21, historian David Chandler details how kids were taken from their parents, turned into soldiers, and taught to kill, even to spy on their own families. Imagine being 10 years old and ordered to point a gun at someone you love. And the worst part, according to an article from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, most of the world remained silent while this was happening. You might be thinking, how do you come back from something like that? How does a country rebuild after losing 25% of its population? The answer is slowly and with incredible courage. Survivors began telling their stories, and when the war was over, Becker describes how these first-hand accounts became a form of resistance, proof that history couldn't be erased. They spoke of the fear, the starvation, the forced labor. They passed these stories on to the next generation, determined that no one would ever forget. Today, Cambodia honors its victims through education and remembrance. But some people will say, that was decades ago, why dig it back up? Because as Kernan warns in the Pol Pot regime, history has a way of repeating itself. And when we stop paying attention, the same censorship, control, and blind obedience that led to the genocide in Cambodia still exists in different forms around the world today. And when we silence truth, follow without question, and value comfort over justice, that's how it begins. Cambodia is proof that the opposite of silence isn't just noise, it's courage. You might think of something like this can never happen here, but it's not just Cambodia's story, it's humanity's lesson. This is what happens when power goes unchecked and people stop speaking up. It's in the way we scroll past injustice online, the way we tune out when the truth makes us uncomfortable, the way we say, that's not my problem. Here's the thing. It's easy to look at the Khmer Rouge and think of them as monsters. But in reality, they were ordinary people taught to believe that obedience mattered more than compassion. That the following orders that was more important than asking questions. If we forget their story, if we look away when history repeats itself, then we're choosing the same silence that killed millions. Honestly, Cambodia's story isn't just something you read in a history book. It's an inspiration to stand up and speak out. Time and time again, history doesn't repeat itself with the same names or uniforms. It repeats when we stop paying attention. Cambodia's courage to speak, rebuild, and teach. That's how they found their voice again, and so must we. Because the Khmer Rouge began with people too afraid to speak and ended with no one left to listen.